The "how will you survive" tagline is fantastic. On the surface, it's how will you execute against this cool survival plan that you've been planning with your buddies your whole life? How will you survive going through the actual consequences when nothing works out the way you planned it? And when you can't save everybody and people in your base are starving and somebody is coming to you and saying, please, I just need a place to live. How will you survive that? While you're out doing all the action and blowing things up and fighting juggernauts and ferals and things like that, there's a lot of stuff going on back at your base. We're basically simulating what's going on between the different survivors, the different interactions between their traits and how they affect each other's morale.
Everybody in your base has their kind of own ideas about what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing, how you respond to certain crises or situations.
We also simulate what it's like for those folks to be surviving day to day.
Well, look at that.
Going out into the world, finding a few things. You're the focus of the action, but there's still stuff going on with them. And then, of course, the noise that's going on at the base.
Base is being attacked! Zombies are everywhere!
Interacting with the simulation of what's going on with the zombies in the world, so that can cause a siege. And then the sort of behind the scenes on what's going on with the zombies themselves, how infestations are spreading, how hordes are moving through the world. All of those things are kind of happening in the background while you're out doing the action and the fun stuff.
Well, we sure did blow those folks off, didn't we?
What makes the game interesting and compelling long-term is not any one of those simulations and the way that simulation interacts with you, but the way that they all overlap and work together. And so a lot of times when you're playing, you'll set out to go accomplish a certain thing or think that you're going to be doing a certain thing, but you wind up having a completely different play experience than you envisioned that you would. And ultimately, that's the heartbeat of the kind of responsive and dynamic nature of the game.
The procedural composition systems are very complicated. I can give you kind of the Cliff's Notes versions. We start by generating a cultural background and a name for each survivor. We want them to have a sense of history, a background that feels like something that came from either the pre-apocalypse or post-apocalypse before they wound up with this community. How were they surviving? What were they doing in the world?
You'll be able to go into great depth and see how those experiences and those beliefs impact the way that character not only reacts to the decisions you make, but plugs into the fundamental simulation.
You can dig in and see like, oh, this person used to be a police officer or was in the military. I can see why they have such good shooting skills right out of the gate. And then we round that out with some personality quirks, some different behavioral things, emotional responses that they might have to certain elements, or some physical characteristics, like the snoring is a good example, that kind of make them a complete person.
Sometimes that character's background traits may directly impact their RPG stats, their shooting, their cardio, both in terms of what is its current value, what is its maximum value, how good can they ever get at this kind of thing. And then there are some kind of longer term traits that aren't necessarily always immediately obvious. We give ourselves the ability to not only impact the game as you see it today, but also make sure those traits can play a role as we grow and extend the game over time. And things can happen, all right? People can get pissed off and leave.
You know, when I encounter a survivor who's in the world who says, oh, this person doesn't trust you, I immediately want to look for ways to be like, hey, we need to build trust here so that we can survive together. I don't want to lose those people. I want to invest in them.
Bringing somebody into the base that you know has a negative trait, and then seeing the morale hit that has from either a particular trait that they have or the fact that they have conflict with somebody else that's in the community, and that starts bringing the morale of the entire community down because these two are fighting all the time. And the little details of those interactions kind of come together into the simulation to give it that feel of consequences.
You know, we always balance that, the kind of visceral reaction of fun 3D action combat, the open simulated sandbox world, and then that very deep, very more kind of thoughtful experience of how are you crafting your base.
There are so many more options for base building than we had in the first game. The number of different facilities that you can build in your base, and then the functionality that they each offer your community in terms of alleviating some pressure. You want to generate some food, you want to build a garden, something bigger, you can make a farm, and then switching your farm's output production from food to medicinal herbs so that now you're generating medicine for your community. Adding mods to your workshop, so now you have power in your workshop, and now you can generate and craft items that you weren't able to do before. None of those systems were in the first game, and it's really exciting to see what those options bring to the table in terms of people being able to realize their survival plans. My favorite moments from developing this game have tended to be when I hear other people in the office responding to something horrible that's happening to them.
I was there late at night. It was dark outside. Several other people were there working late. It was very quiet at the studio.
He had his headphones on, he's playing the game, and I'm just sitting there working.
There was some gentle music playing, and I wasn't really paying attention, and I heard a sound. You know, it's just out here on your peripheral somewhere. It's not attacking you yet. It's just watching you and kind of stalking you.
And I hear, oh, shit, like really loud.
And I literally felt the hairs on my arm stand up, right? I felt this kind of wash of that fear response.
He knew it was a feral, but he turned and there it was, and it started tearing things up.
Zombie movies terrify me, and I love them, but to actually like jump into that game and live in that world was far scarier than I anticipated.
If we're doing our jobs, there are still going to be moments of genuine fear. This is the zombie apocalypse, and I love that we're able to convey that through the subtlety of moments like that.